Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Beers of War podcast. Tonight, we're going to be discussing episode 5 of The Last of Us. I'm Matilda82 here with Beer Ninja. So, Beer Ninja, what do you think of the overall episode from the other night?
Overall, I really enjoyed the direction of where it was going. And I mean, the game is still fresh in my head. So I definitely know the differences between the game and the episode itself. And before we dive too much into this, just to let everybody know out there, spoiler alert. All right. So we are going to be doing some comparisons and whatnot. The first thing that caught my mind was when we got introduced with Henry and Sam. I thought it was excellent casting. I thought it was excellent show to watch all throughout with them. The big difference, though, is that I believe Sam, the younger brother, he wasn't portrayed as a deaf person in the video game. Matter of fact, he had conversations with Ellie throughout the game, you know, for a little bit and everything. So how they kind of brought that into the episode, I thought that was actually a pretty interesting take on it and everything. I think they did a wonderful job in how they introduced them and everything. And there's also a new element, I mean, based off of episode 4. Can't remember her name for the life of me, but every time I looked at her, she was always Karen from Will and Grace to me. But she did a phenomenal job on there as well, being the new enemy. Throughout, I'm pretty sure it was Karen from that show anyways.
No, that's different person. The lady that played Karen on Will and Grace, I think you're thinking of.
Was it not her?
She's married to Nick Offerman.
Oh, was that her?
Yeah, but no,
Okay.
I think the girl that you're talking about, I'll have to pull it up here in a second. She played Charlie's psycho neighbor on 2.5 Men.
That's who it was. It was either her or Karen because they always look very like the same to me. All right. So yeah, no, you're exactly right. Like she went from one psycho nut to a different psycho nut, and so it makes perfect sense. No, you're right. But I thought she did a wonderful job in there too. Of course, she's never really mentioned in the game or anything like that at all. I think what they ended up doing with the show, they added more substance to the scene and everything because the ultimate showdown that took place by the end of episode 5, that was phenomenal. I mean, granted, most of it I think was like CGI and everything. But it also kind of explains along the way, you know, what happens to some of the characters in the show and whatnot. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I really like the direction that it was going and everything. I'm really looking forward to the next episode and seeing where they're going into it next. So that's kind of my take on it right now and my feelings.
Yeah, the character you're referring to, played by Melanie Linsky. She played Kathleen. That was the character name, Kathleen.
Okay, Kathleen.
You're
Yeah.
talking about the leader of the Kansas City Resistance.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Actually, her sideman, Perry, he actually did the voice of Perry in the video game, and also in the second episode, he did the voice of Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another throwback to the game as well, was him playing a character and also voicing in the game.
Well, I'm also hearing through the grapevine too that Troy Baker and I think her name is Ashley Johnson, they'll actually be making a surprise cameo appearance in some future episodes. So I thought that was going to be really neat as well. Nice.
Yeah, it's kind of cool how they are incorporating aspects of the game into not just like trying to follow the storyline of the game as close and accurate as possible, but bringing in these voice actors to play different characters,
different roles that were involved in and everything.
Right. Yeah. So
yeah, and you bring up a really good point about it and everything too, because there's no sense in making a TV show exactly the way the video game is going to be, because we already know how it plays out, especially if you're a fan of the series and everything. So I like the fill-ins. I like the extra substance that they're adding into it, and I like the nods that they're adding in with other actors that were actually involved with the original game too. Man, that was just, I didn't know that about Perry though. Is he the one? Was he the guy with the long hair?
He was the big beard. They got his head ripped off.
Okay, that was him. Yeah,
the guy that we'll get to that scene here in a minute. But yeah, my overall take was pretty good episode. Good suspenseful build up because they're trying. The first part of the episode, they're running. They're trying to get away from Kansas City and get out of there, and they're kind of worried about the path they take going underground. They're worried about the infected being down there, and then but also at the same time they're watching her back because Melanie's out looking for Joel and Ellie because of Joel killing the people at the beginning of last episode, and then she's looking for Henry and Sam because was it Henry that killed her brother?
Henry was the one. Yes.
Yeah, and because he was a collaborator. But I mean, you kind of feel bad for him because of why he did it, but at the same time, what we've seen up to this point with Fedra and how things have been living under Fedra control. You also kind of got a little bit of hatred towards him because stuff that he did hurt people as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we get up after they get out of the city, they get in that small little suburb community, and then all hell breaks loose. So yeah, it was a pretty intense scene right there as well, building up to the final climactic end of the episode. And yeah, unfortunately, both Henry and Sam didn't make it out of this episode. I was hoping they would actually I was starting to bond to him. I was hoping they would actually carry on a few more episodes before something happened to him, but
I suspect they probably could have, because even throughout the game, you're with them for a little bit before, what happens, of course. There's one part in the game where actually you're exploring a lot in the sewers and trying to get through it. You end up on a beach, I think, first, and then throughout the sewers there as well. And you get a little bit of like playtime between him and Ellie again. Like in the game, you end up in the neighborhood, but before anything goes awry or anything like that, they find a dart board, so they play darts together and stuff like that. And they're just kind of challenging each other and whatnot, just kind of bantering back and forth and whatnot. And it's like part of it, to kind of just switch gears here for a moment, is like during that last episode and everything, and what you were saying about Henry, what he had to do. Well, I mean, given his situation, it's like, what would you do? Did you have to do bad things in order to save the ones you love? Like, I can't possibly imagine, because I was literally thinking this when I was watching the show, is like, what would I do if I was put in that situation right there? Would you betray the ones that you know and love just to save the life of another? Or would you pursue other methods in order to do so and everything? And it's like, when I was watching that episode, I almost kind of like put myself in the situation in a way, and it just really gets people to thinking about it. Like, I mean, not only that, based off of the game's premise or even the show's premise, like how it all starts and everything with the fungus and whatnot. I mean, that's not far off, really. It's not too far fetched.
Yeah, I saw an article today that there's because of all this, the show being a popular hit, you're starting to see more and more articles about this and stuff popping up about fungus infecting insects and stuff. And they said there's actually a fungus that is 3 steps away from being able to infect humans.
Yeah.
So that just tells you in reality how something like this it really is. So that
really is, dude.
That scientist at the beginning of episode 1 was kind of on something when he said, even though it's modern day recording, but from 1969, he's still saying that this is possible. And then we learn in episode 2 with the scientist in Indonesia, she didn't believe it at first and was shocked when she first seen it. And when she realized what it was and actually seen it in that dead body, she knew what they were dealing with and what was going to happen. So what do you think about the introduction of the new? So what do they call them? What do they call them in the game? Are they infected? Zombies? Do they got
the big guy?
Well, just in general, what are these people called? Do they have like a name in general for them?
I mean, sometimes I believe they call them zombies sometimes, but the ones that have like the cauliflower looking head with the clicking noise, those are called clickers for sure. So they definitely stayed on par with those characters as well.
Yeah, because I looked it up today. the newly
Mhm.
infected are called runners. That's what they
Runners,
call
yes.
them, runners. And then the new one that we got introduced to on Sunday night are called bloated.
Yeah, bloated. Yeah,
Is
the in the video game they didn't show it with this character in the show, but in the video game, very very close, accurate depiction of it from it. But he also has this ability where he can spew out some kind of, I don't know if it's a spore mucus or whatever the hell you want to call it. All I know is it can go a distance and it would damage your character in the game and whatnot. And I didn't see that happening there. I saw more of his what would happen when you get near him, and that's pretty much what he would do. He just uses brute force and rips you in half, pretty much. So yeah, I believe they called him bloats or bloaters
yeah,
in the game. It's kind of a common theme in video games like that. You know, when you got zombies, you got runners, you got bloaters and things like that. So they kind of get a similar name for it. But yes, that's what we did get introduced with episode 5, and that guy was just an all-out beast. They're very
yeah,
hard to take down in the game too.
yeah. I was doing a little research on them, and it was like and it's basically everybody starts out as becomes infected, becomes a runner, and then as they progress, they turn into clickers. The longer they survive, and eventually
Mm-hmm.
they become the bloated or bloaters
Right.
or so. And they said that even that like that one character could have been around had actually survived since the beginning of the infection, becoming
Mm-hmm.
infected. And at
Over the
that
last
point,
20 years.
the fungus has basically taken over your entire body. You're no longer human at all. You're just a walking fungus, and it developed into basically the fungus itself turns into more of like a body armor protecting the insides.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they have
It just, yeah,
brute
they
strength.
just evolve. They just evolve over time. I'm wondering if they're going to make a part 3 of the series. I haven't played part 2 yet. I want to. I don't know if there's any. To be honest with you, I don't know if they advance or evolve from there at that point or whatnot. It'd be awesome to see. I'm actually trying to procure a copy right now just so I can find out for myself. But um, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's just like depending on how long they were, and you kind of knew too in the storyline of the episodes. Like, well, they said it was clear, and how long ago was that? 3 years ago. Well, that's
Yeah.
time gone by. So if there was a few down there 3 years ago, who knows how far they had evolved at that point?
Right.
And I mean,
Yeah,
we're
we've
still
seen
pretty
what
bad
they
alive.
turned in, what happens with, but apparently they weren't necessarily in the tunnels. They got out of the tunnels and farther out into the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
But did they get out there on their own? Or were they pushed more out there by Fedra?
Who knows,
So,
man? I mean, there's still more of that story to tell, I think.
so you made a comment on the during the last recording last week about Joel at the end. It sounds like at the end of the game, he kind of leaves you at the cliffhanger because one of the decisions he had to make.
Mm-hmm.
But during this last episode, Ellie made the comment when she was talking to, I want to say Sam, basically said that Joel can be an asshole. Is that do you feel like that's kind of being a foreshadowing to what's going to be coming?
I mean, kind of like it because when he
I mean,
considered
don't
her.
spoil it. Don't spoil what happens. I'm kind of picking
Oh,
up
I
on it.
won't. I won't say what happens. Like especially near the end. I mean, he was. I don't really consider him an asshole at the end of the game or anything, but kind of throughout because, you know, taking responsibility now over Ellie, he basically refers to her as cargo.
Right.
You know, and of course he's done some sketchy stuff in his past too over the last 20 years, and they actually brought that up in the episodes as well when Ellie confronted him about it, because the part where they show up in the car, I think it was episode 4, and they see somebody hurting asking for help. Well, Joe immediately knew what it was. They knew it was a ruse and everything, so in order to get them to stop and whatnot. And she kind of questions it after everything was said and done, because Joel was actually on that opposite side. Did he kill innocents? Yeah, he killed
Yeah.
innocents. And just the way that their relationship would kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily build, but it was like they were just kind of like at each other from time to time. So he would kind of come off in a way as an asshole in a way. So that's how I kind of took it as there. Now at the end of the first game and everything, you'll probably I'm not sure how you would take it, but I'm pretty sure they're going to do that in the episodes to come. So I'm going to save that for later. I really don't want to spoil that for you or anybody else that may be listening or watching or anything. I mean, but either way, the way the show's going, it can go either way. It can go completely different for all I know.
Right.
So I'm just going to give my input based off of where we're at as far as the episode goes. And I knew exactly where they ended up at when they were having that all out battle. And I knew that at that point, Sam was going to get, well,
Right.
infected, of course. So,
And Ellie, and even Ellie, even the short time they've known each other, she had really taken to him. I know part of it is because up to that point, you haven't seen her around anybody else her own age. She's always been around adults, but then she actually had another kid, even though he's a few years younger. She felt like you kind of felt like she got to relax and be a kid for a change instead of running around and constantly trying to figure out how to survive and make it to the next day. She got to be a kid again with Sam. So
that's what I was talking about, like kind of putting yourself in the show and everything like that. I can't possibly imagine going through anything like that, especially if I have a child with me and whatnot, and just having them having to experience something like that. At the end of the day, you're like thinking, thank God it's just a TV show and everything. But what if, you know? And so Ellie now, her character's starting to develop even more. And as you can see, as we go along throughout the TV series, she's growing up a lot quicker too.
right.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like thinking, and I noticed too, you're starting to see the internal conflict a little bit more with Joel as well. Because I made this comment last week that he had built his wall up because especially around Elle, because he doesn't want to get attached to her because tomorrow she could be gone. But you're starting to notice, even with allowing Sam and Henry into the fold, he's starting to kind of become more settled down, more human again. Because before, when him and Tess were in the Fedra control, he was basically a drug runner, a smuggler, did anything he could to survive, and even working with in ways Fedra, because he had that one guy that he gave the pills to in the first episode, kind of in a way aligning himself with it, even though it's kind of like a dark alliance type thing. It's only for his benefit. But at the same time, he was getting information out of it. Like the guy told him to stay off the streets. We're doing a sweep tonight and this and that. So, but I'm starting to see more and more each episode, that barrier he put up to protect himself emotionally starting to crumble a little bit more each week. So, and I think the preview I saw for next week, they're in Wyoming. They'll make it to Wyoming. So we'll be in Wyoming next week. Or close to the end of the episode, we'll be there. So may show a little bit more of them traversing the country. Because right now they're just right outside of Kansas City, roughly.
And you're right about Joel as far as his character goes and everything, because the guy is practically battle hardened. He's numb basically to a lot of the things at that point, and now that wall's starting to come down a little bit. Like you see Ellie. I don't think this is giving away too much, but you see Ellie pull out a book about puns and stuff like that, and so she starts reading them just to try to get a rise out of it.
Yeah,
that actually was a nod to a DLC for the first game, and they kind of explain where that book comes from and whatnot. And I'd be happy to explain it to you, but honestly, I don't think I should right now, because I have a feeling they're going to bring that story arc in to the TV series.
okay.
I mean, I could be wrong, but it's a very interesting take on how they do it. But anyways, I actually laughed my ass off because right when you start off at the scene of episode 5, they got guns in their face and whatnot, and she's trying to get Joel to agree to their terms and whatnot, how Joel would answer them and whatnot. Yeah. And she goes, he didn't believe him, so they thought they were going to get shot. And next thing you know, she goes, no, that's just his asshole voice. That's how he sounds. And
yeah,
I was like, that's fucking right, because there was really no other way he would answer it. He would just be straight and to the point. He has that asshole voice, So I was like, that's one of the reasons I was saying he was kind of like an asshole and everything. It was just funny as hell just seeing that scene. It played out perfectly, and This girl with Bella Ramsey,
Yep.
man, hats off, man. I mean, she's filling in this role so well, and I just really want to see it. And I think, come to find out, a lot of this show was actually filmed about a year and a half ago. I had watched an interview with Nick Offerman, who was it Jimmy Kimmel? I think it was the Jimmy Kimmel show that he was on, and he was just talking about, because he's kind of big right now after episode 3 and the way everything went in episode 3 and whatnot. And he explained when that part was filmed. I was like, dang. So they had plenty of time to go through and polish this show off and everything. And that just kind of shows where, good work really does pay off. Hard work really does pay off. Because look now, you got fans that are loving the show. You got new people who are being introduced in the world. I actually took the liberty of looking for The Last of Us part 1 and 2 for video games. And the prices have kind of started to go up a little bit more now, because I think people are trying to buy them up so they can kind of compare notes and everything. So it's really cool, man. It really is. I'm really digging this show. It's a show I haven't really, there really hasn't been a lot of good stuff to watch on TV lately at all, and I'm kind of glad I took a chance. My friend, Josh, he's up in Washington. He told me, dude, you got to watch this show. And I was like, I don't know, man. I think what I'll do first is I'll play the game and then I'll watch the show. So I played the game, and I was like, now I got to watch the show. And here we are now. And I recommend that for anybody, man. If you know that there's going to be a video game TV series coming out and everything, maybe play the games first. That way you still got it fresh in your head and just kind of compare notes about how it goes about, because it is amazing about how close they are together. Like, there's really no other video game TV show or movie that I've seen that really even comes close right now. And kind of a side note, that's why I'm really hoping that Netflix gets Gears of War right. I mean, they can really learn a lot from this production, with Sony, what they're putting out.
Yeah, I think last week we kind of hit a sour note with Shane when we started talking about Halo. I mean, I made the comment afterwards that we need to get or Kevin and Shane together and let them have a back and forth debate about the Halo series. But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing, because the big thing I'm waiting on is, when we mentioned in one of our other podcasts about looking forward to, is there's been in the works for I'm going to say going on 10 years now, a Voltron live action series. I'm a huge Voltron fan. I remember that was one of the first things I grew up. I enjoyed that more than Transformers. And the last rumor I heard was Amazon has won the bidding war and is in the pre-planning stages of it. And it's one of those things that's like, I've been watching a lot of Amazon shows that specifically for Amazon and really enjoyed them. The movies, the Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt, and Without Remorse or No Remorse with Michael B. Jordan, which is the setup for Rainbow Six and Tom Clancy's universe. If you're a big Rainbow Six fan, go watch that one. That's a pretty good movie. So it seems like we're getting it. If it was like NBC or CBS or ABC was doing our favorite video game shows or whatever, it's probably going to be a disappointment and a letdown.
Oh,
but
big time.
We're starting to see what Netflix is taking, rebooting series. I mean, they just did the Wednesday series that turned into a big hit.
Mm-hmm.
Take a Wednesday Addams from the Addams Family. Just different shows. Even Amazon's got good shows. Hunters is pretty good. I like the Terminal List with Chris Pratt. I mean, Jack Ryan series that Amazon does. So it seems like these streaming services that have the money and the backing are putting out better quality shows now than what they're doing. And I'm even noticing now with I enjoy a really good police procedural drama. I mean, today I was channel surfing and I was on a channel here, and season 1, episode 1 of In Heat of the Night was on. And I was like, man, I'm going to watch this. This is the very first episode of it. So I watched it all the way through. And even though it came out in the late 80s, early 90s, I still enjoyed the show. I remember watching it when I was younger with my grandpa. That's what he watched all the time. So, I mean, I've always watched it off and on throughout the years. But still, some of these shows that getting into it are still pretty good with these. But it seems like they have the funding to put the money into it, to give it what it needs, to make it successful instead of just, let's take this IP, let's make a show, and then we get stuff that was like, I mean, I know Shane's not going to like what I'm going to say. You get stuff like Halo. It's just, even though I've never played the game, so I'm kind of coming in, same thing with this show. I'm coming in unbiased, so I don't have predetermined biases on what I'm expecting out of the show, and I just can't get into it. But the streaming service like Paramount Plus brought back Criminal Minds for 16th season, Criminal Minds Evolution. And it's kind of like a carry on from the original series, but also in a way it's kind of a spinoff. But because it's on streaming now, they're not held to the same standards as being on broadcast TV. So the language is a lot more coarse. I mean, they're dropping F-bombs and stuff in there now. Some of the pictures you're starting to see is a little bit more gory and brutal. So you're starting to see some. And that stuff, I think in a show like Criminal Minds, when you're dealing with serial killers and the depravity of people, having it on a streaming service opens up that world a lot more and it makes it more entertaining, especially if you're somebody who's a fan of this kind of stuff and you're drawn to it. You want to see that stuff, but because it's on broadcast TV, you can't see that. And I think that's what's happening with like HBO has done it for years. I mean, there's shows on HBO, Game of Thrones, Band of Brothers, where I would say HBO is probably the forefront or the flag bearer of these series that they bring into these shows that are really good and enjoyable because they can cross those boundaries you can't get on regular TV. I mean, look at some of the old shows on HBO. You know, like I said, Game of Thrones, Band of Brothers, The Pacific. These would be totally different series if they were on regular basic TV. So
that, or if Hollywood took over at that point, I'm sorry, but they can't hold a candle with some of these other networks that are doing it. HBO, like circling back to HBO with The Last of Us and everything, these guys can do a lot more. And not only that, to kind of piggyback off what you were saying right there, it makes good TV basically, especially when you're using source material.
right.
And I've said this before in the past with other podcasts and stuff like that. You got like the show Netflix was doing awesome, I thought, with the first season of it, but The Witcher, and now it's just kind of going, I don't know if I should say downhill or not. I'm still going to watch season 3, the last season with Henry Cavill, and I'll watch season 4 and see where because I think they're done after that, but a lot of it's kind of streaming away from the source material, like, stuff that didn't really happen or remotely close to it happening, So Neil, I believe the guy's name is Neil Druckmann, who is the one that basically created The Last of Us. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's involved with the TV series heavily, producing and whatnot. So I like to see more video game companies do that. I want to see them get involved in their own projects, their own TV series, to make sure, doesn't go awry, and not just doing it just so they can try to milk off of it and then it turned out to be a total flop, because to me that kind of sends a message out that you're not taking your baby, your product, your show, your game, your whatever very seriously. And I think you can lose a lot of fans that way too in some cases. Not a lot, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, you'll lose your diehard fans that are strict and that's what they focused on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's just take this out. If say they came out with a Call of Duty series and it bombs, yeah, some of your hardcore fans, you might lose a few of them, but you're still going to get people there.
Right. So, absolutely.
So yeah, it's just making sure that they put a quality product out, and we're starting to see more and more studios putting out quality products. Like you said, this show has been done for a while, and it seems like they've been polishing it and probably, let's put this scene in. Now let's take this scene out, put this scene back in. And then they've been kind of working it out. And I think got a refined product that is just like people from all walks of life are watching this. I mean, I'm a marching band dad, and I had a meeting tonight that I had to go to, and one of the other band dads, not a gamer, but he watches the show every week as well. He says he likes the show. So you're drawing people in with a good quality show, and then you're expanding your reach because now you've got new people coming into the fold.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering how much of the original Mario movie, the Street Fighter movie, depends on some people. Some people say the original Mortal Kombat movie was all right, decent. The second one kind of nah. How
The only
much
thing
is
that all three of those movies have in common is that they got the names right, and that was about it.
and I'm just wondering how much of like those, and I know there's other ones throughout the years,
Yeah.
because those movies flopped. How much has that kind of shied people from going into those IPs? What if they made those IPs successful? Would we be in a different realm right now and talking about games and movies that are video games that are being converted into TV shows and games now if those movies had been more successful?
Yeah. Well, me growing up as a child, as a kid and everything, I would like go to grocery stores, or I go to, this place we used to frequent called Peter Piper Pizza, and we play Mortal Kombat there. I go to Safeway or Fry's, one of the two, to play Street Fighter and whatnot. And what the thing was is back in those days, this is when those games were just becoming like huge. Like this was the thing. And looking back in hindsight, when they produced the movies, they only produced the movies because that's what the hotness was back then. So they didn't really have a whole lot of time to go through it. Let's just Hollywood this stuff up and, get it out there and make some more money off of it. So, yeah, I think a lot of patience and hard work goes into it if you put a lot into this product right here. In this case, they did it right with The Last of Us because the game came out in 2013. Here we are 10 years later in 2023, right? So it works when you take the time to do it. As far as Street Fighter and Mario and Mortal Kombat, I think the only one I really liked out of it was Mortal Kombat. It was remotely close, in my opinion. Even the new series that I think it was HBO Max that popped out, it was actually pretty good. Different direction, but it was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it too.
Yes, I did like the Scorpion Sub-Zero version of the HBO Mortal Kombat.
Absolutely. So, Neil Druckmann and everybody else, Pedro Pascal, Bella Ramsey, I mean, all of them, my hat's off to them. I think it's a wonderful show. And honestly, if I had to guess, if I had to say something, I hope they don't milk this out. I hope they do it at least up to 3 seasons, in my opinion, because I think there's some wiggle room right there. Because if I'm not mistaken, they may be in talks of trying to do a 3rd game. But if they do that, we'll see where that goes at that point and everything. I mean, by then, Bella Ramsey will be at that age to take the role even again, so I'm looking forward to the future episodes. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah. I'm, as somebody who doesn't have knowledge ahead, and I've been trying to make sure I don't go reading synopsis of the game and stuff, so I don't know what's going to happen and where things progress to. So I'm enjoying being surprised and in awe each week what I've learned, what I find out. Then after that episode's over, if there's something I don't know, like today I went in and looked up the what are they called, like the runners, the clickers, the bloated, stuff like that. And I hear there's even something called a Rat King. It was coming up. Maybe it came up on the article I read. So I don't know if that's something that's been introduced yet in the game.
I don't know. Right now,
maybe that's something you run into.
Just keep scrolling. Like don't let it ruin your. I almost ruined it for me just earlier today, and I'm like, nope, got to keep going. Because I don't want to know about part 2 yet. The video game. I want to play it and experience it myself.
Well, it's like the other night when I was trying to find something to watch on Friday night, and I happened to see that I was getting late or something, and I was about to go to bed, and my wife's about to go to bed, and I just on HBO, and I noticed, wait, is that a new? I didn't realize they were going to drop the episode 2 days early.
Neither did I. I mean, and when you told me that the episode was out, and I was like, wait, already? I'm like,
Well,
okay.
I understand why you don't want to compete with the big game.
Yeah.
So that just hurts your ratings.
Yeah.
So I understand why they did it, and I was kind of surprised. But now the downfall is I've got to wait 2 extra days for the next episode.
Yeah. Well, that anticipation will make it worth it. Yeah. You're right. That's a trade-off. I don't know. But guys out there, I mean, we'd love to hear your comments about what you think. I mean, do you think the direction that how they're going with video game into film or TV adaptions, is it something that we want to see more of, where people use the source material, or do we want to go off of it? We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts process on it and everything. And as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell there somewhere right there. Other than that, that's all I got for. I'm looking forward to the next episode. I can't wait to see you guys on the next episode. Anything on your end, Matilda?
No, I'm kind of like you. I'm waiting until the 19th to roll around so I can watch the next episode as well and see where we're heading. Like I said, I think we're going into Wyoming. We're getting close to Wyoming.
Absolutely.
Even in the trailer, I think he runs into his brother. So maybe we'll get a little bit more backstory on the falling out between the two.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, that's all. That's it for our show and everything. We hope you guys have a safe and happy Valentine's Day. And get our shots ready right here. And remember, when you drink,
if you drink, may you drink
with me.